Okay, so I thought it would be fun, and I mean fun in the loosest sense of the term possible, to make a video about my past substance abuse. For a long time, I was the kind of person where if you put a substance in front of me, like, it didn't matter what it was, I would take it. Did not matter if it was weed or a blunt made up of like a rolled up datura leaf and a crushed perk 30, okay? I would smoke it. You'd think my mother was smoking crack while she was pregnant with me, the way I came out of the womb a fiend. If you've ever seen the movie mid-90s, that's basically what my childhood was like. And you know, no matter how bad it must have looked from the outside, I'm actually glad that my parents let me hang out with these older kids who were like a bad influence when I was in middle school, because otherwise I would have had like no fucking friends. I would have killed myself in middle school. And so there I was, 11 years old, sitting in this car with a gay dude who's like hotboxing the fucking car. And he's like shoving his phone in my face, showing me this guy on Grindr being like, is he hot? And then the guy looked exactly like him. And I was like, yeah, he's hot. You know, go meet up with him. I distinctly remember that he was like blasting Lady Gaga. That's like a core memory. And then I changed the music to like 9 Inch Nails and everybody was pissed off at me. I was a child of the Zandemic. We used to call like San Carlos, Zan Barlos. I would go down to Zan Barlos like every weekend to hang out with like my 18, 20-year-old friends, and shockingly, nothing bad ever happened besides like me just embarrassing myself in public while high, you know? And for a while, it was manageable because I was only doing drugs with my friends. I would never just sit alone in my room and do drugs by myself. That all changed during the pandemic. I was extremely depressed and isolated, and that is when I discovered day drinking alone in my room. You know, I was like, I think 13, I must have been in like freshman year, and I would like dance around in my room, like heavily drunk, listening to New Order, like fucking Patrick Bateman. But like, I never really spiraled into full-blown alcoholism just because I hate the taste of alcohol so much. You know, I was a picky eater as a kid. In 2023, that's when I really started to spiral. Like, late 2022 to May 2023, that was the worst period of my life, hands down.
Merry Christmas, I want drugs. Happy birthday, I want drugs. Happy Kwanzaa, I want drugs.
I was in this on-again, off-again relationship with like one of the most mentally ill people that I have ever met in my entire life. And I say this as someone who is batshit crazy myself. Like, I love this person, but they were not good for me in any way, shape, or form. And I had also become friends with this guy who was a drug addict. The reason that I initially even became friends with him was because I was so suicidal that I went to him and I asked, like, what drugs he could possibly get me. And, like, he was not aware that I was suicidal. He just thought I was a fiend, so this turned into, like, a friendship that lasted for a couple of months. And it was short-lived, but it was fucking crazy. Like, every other weekend, he would want to, like, break into some sort of abandoned factory. I remember we would always return to, like, this one location. We would hop the fence and then hike up this mountain, super high up. And you could see, like, the whole skyline. And it was just beautiful. Acid and 5-MeO-DMT, like drugs you can't even pronounce. I remember one time we did salvia, and I became the letter C. Like, it wasn't exactly the letter C, but I was a letter in a string of 3-dimensional letters. They were not like English letters, but one of them resembled the letter C, and that was me. And I think psychedelics did help me, but I should have been taking them in moderation. I remember the first time I took acid, it was like my brain was a bonsai tree. And then when I took acid, I finally took the tree out of its little case, and it grew and it grew and it grew. You know, I was able to see life with a new, fresh set of eyes. But the thing is, if you take acid to escape from reality or any other psychedelic drug, then, you know, you can get like mentally addicted to it, not physically addicted to it. But the thing is, like, you're supposed to take psychedelics to reflect upon your current reality, not escape from it. I was also friends with another guy who had a drug problem, and, you know, we were always going out to San Francisco and, like, you know, popping pills on the train, like every stimulant you can think of, and we'd wash it down with, like, a Diet Coke or an energy drink, and I'd feel like my heart was about to explode out of my chest. You know, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And I could make a whole video about this guy. You know, like absolutely bonkers, like diagnosed sociopath. I ended up losing this guy as a friend because he was constantly threatening to kill himself, and I called a wellness check on him. And, you know, he hates me now, hates my fucking guts. That was my Azealia Banks arc, or my little episode, as my psychiatrist likes to call it. You know, no one was spared from my wrath. I went crazy. I lost everything. I found out that one of my friends was making fun of me behind my back, and, you know, making fun of me because I almost OD'd on Percocet in class. And I went up to this guy and publicly confronted him and started yelling and screaming at him. Of course, now everybody thinks that I'm the crazy one, but don't judge someone for how they act in a situation unless you have been in a situation that fucking crazy. I was fighting demons every day, and by demons, I mean the Hat Man and multiple twinks who also had eating disorders and substance abuse issues, okay? And you know it's bad when you spent all of your money on other drugs, so now you have to resort to fucking Benadryl, okay? Demonic substance. I have no idea how they banned weed in America, basically, and then you can buy Benadryl at the fucking store. So one night, I'm home alone. I don't have anything to do to keep my mind off of the horrors of being alive. And I'm sure as hell not gonna do Benadryl again. So what do? I head to my room and I take, like, all of the fucking DXM that I have. About 20 minutes in, I start to get horrific, like, stomach cramps. And I just sit down and wait for it to go away. It doesn't go away, but then it begins. First, I noticed that the proportion of things was off. Like, my room seemed much larger than it actually was. And then I closed my eyes, and I started having, like, these visions that I wouldn't even describe as, like, closed eye hallucinations. They were more like I had 1,000 dreams in one night. I had this one where I was like some sort of purple furry monster walking up a spiral staircase inside an old castle. And I would look down, and then every time I would look down, there would be a different kind of scene that was going on inside of the castle. Like, once when I looked down, it was just ruins, but then another time I looked down and there was like a whole ball going on down there. I had another one where I was like this god being made of light that was being ripped apart, but for some reason it didn't, like, affect me that much emotionally. I don't know if this is like an autism thing or my ego is just too huge to be destroyed, but I've never experienced ego death, and I've done pretty much everything out there. But the one I remember the most vividly was where, like, I reached this astral plane, and I saw that Nettspend and his girlfriend were there, like, the model who's, like, way older than him. And I said, fuck off, Nettspend, I don't want you here. And I banished him from the psychedelic realm like a goetic demon. Mind you, I've never listened to a Nettspend song in my entire life. I have no idea how my subconscious conjured that up. But anyways, at one point I had to shit so bad, and I got up, and it was like that scene in The Wolf of Wall Street where Leonardo DiCaprio takes Quaaludes. I was, like, stumbling, and I had to, like, hold on to the walls. And once I finally got to the bathroom, I looked in the mirror, and it looked like my face was fragmented, and my pupils were massive. I was sweating like a fucking pig, and I was sitting on the toilet for so long, and I could not shit. It was so painful and so uncomfortable. For a lot of people, the experience that finally makes them decide to get sober is like a heroin overdose or something. But for me, nah, that was the moment where I knew I had to pack it up. So I got sober, like, more or less cold turkey. I am, like, California sober now. I guess just because, like, it's really hard to stay sober when I only got sober because I just felt like what I was doing was embarrassing. I was embarrassed of how the people around me perceived me. And now there are no people around me to perceive me, so my brain is like, okay, start doing drugs again, but I know that I can't. Because the more I do drugs, the harder it will get to just live life without being under the influence. Thank you for watching. You better fucking like this video, because I'm out here destroying my digital footprint for your guys' entertainment. Goodbye.